Imagine being so connected to someone that you'd rather die than let them live freely. This isn't fiction. This is the chilling true story of the silent twins. On April 11, 1963, in a military hospital in Aden, Yemen, Gloria and Aubrey Gibbons welcomed identical twin daughters into the world. June and Jennifer Gibbons were born just 10 minutes apart, their lives already inexplicably intertwined in ways that would both fascinate and disturb the world for decades to come. The family, originally from Barbados, would soon relocate to Wales as part of Aubrey's RAF posting, unknowingly setting the stage for one of the most mysterious and haunting true crime cases in British history. Growing up in the predominantly white community of Haverfordwest, Wales, the twins faced immediate challenges. As the only black children in their neighborhood and school, they encountered persistent racial prejudice. Their early years were marked by cruel taunts and isolation, but there was something else, something that set them apart even further. Both girls developed a severe speech impediment, making their words nearly incomprehensible to others. Their voices came out in rapid, slurred bursts, as if their thoughts were racing too fast for their mouths to keep up. By the time they entered primary school, teachers and classmates noticed something extraordinary. The twins moved in perfect synchronization, mirror images of each other, as if choreographed by an invisible hand. When one would take a step, the other would follow in exact precision. They would stand motionless for long periods, faces blank, communicating through subtle gestures that only they understood. Most striking of all was their complete refusal to speak to anyone but each other. Their parents, Gloria and Aubrey, watched with growing concern as their daughters retreated further into their private world. At home, June and Jennifer would rush to their shared bedroom, closing the door on reality. Behind those walls, they created an elaborate fantasy universe, complete with detailed stories about their dolls and stuffed animals. They developed their own language, a rapid-fire version of Barbadian Creole that even their parents couldn't decipher. When forced to interact with the outside world, they became completely catatonic, their faces frozen in expressionless masks. The twins' early education became a nightmare for both them and their teachers. In the classroom, they sat rigid in their chairs, refusing to read aloud or answer questions. During breaks, they stood in the playground corner, backs pressed against the wall, watching other children with distant, unblinking stares. Their behavior was so unusual that school authorities eventually decided to separate them, sending them to different schools in hopes of breaking their isolation. The experiment failed miserably. Both girls simply stopped moving altogether, becoming virtually catatonic until they were reunited. As teenagers, June and Jennifer's private world grew darker and more complex. They began writing prolifically, filling notebooks with stories that revealed disturbing themes of violence, revenge, and forbidden desire. Their characters were often young women who committed heinous crimes or engaged in destructive behavior. In one particularly chilling story, Jennifer wrote about a doctor who kills his wife so he can harvest her heart for another patient. June penned tales of young boys being tortured by their teachers, their innocence corrupted by authority figures. Their creative output was remarkable. Using a typewriter they'd received as a Christmas gift, they produced dozens of novels and short stories. Jennifer wrote a novel called Discomania about a group of teenagers who discover that their local disco is run by a psychopath who poisons his patrons. June's Pepsi-Cola addict told the story of a high school hero seduced by his teacher and sent to a reformatory. These works, while amateur in execution, showed flashes of genuine talent and provided a window into their increasingly troubled minds. But their isolation and creative obsession began to take a darker turn as they approached adulthood. The twins started experimenting with alcohol and marijuana, using their parents' prescription medications to fuel their writing binges. Their diaries from this period reveal a disturbing codependency. "Nobody suffers the way I do," Jennifer wrote. "Not with a sister, with us." June's entries were equally troubling. "We have become fatal enemies in each other's eyes. We feel the irritating, deadly rays come out of our bodies, stinging each other's skin." If you're fascinated by true crime stories that blur the lines between reality and the supernatural, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications. Leave a comment below, sharing your theories about what really happened between these mysterious twins. Now, let's dive back into the chilling story of June and Jennifer Gibbons. The year was 1981, and the twins' descent into darkness was about to take a dramatic turn. At age 18, their frustration with their self-imposed isolation reached a breaking point. What began as petty vandalism quickly escalated into a 5-day crime spree that would shock their quiet Welsh community. Their first target was Pembrokeshire Technical College, where they shattered windows and defaced walls with graffiti. But this was just the beginning. On a cold October night, they broke into Thorston Grammar School, methodically destroying equipment and setting fire to the building. The damage would cost the school over £25,000, equivalent to nearly £100,000 today. But perhaps most disturbing was their attack on a local tractor dealership. They not only vandalized the premises, but also stole several items, including a can of gasoline they would later use in another arson attempt. Their final act of destruction targeted a family-owned boarding kennel. The twins broke in late at night, intending to burn it down with several dogs inside. Fortunately, their amateur attempt at arson failed, and the animals were unharmed. But this incident would lead to their undoing. Local police, already suspicious of the identical twins who never spoke, finally had enough evidence to make an arrest. The court proceedings that followed were unlike anything the Welsh justice system had ever seen. The twins stood silent in the dock, their faces completely expressionless as charges were read. When asked to enter pleas, they remained mute, leading to the court entering not guilty pleas on their behalf. Psychiatric evaluations were ordered, but the twins refused to cooperate with any mental health professionals. It was during these evaluations that doctors first began to understand the depths of their psychological bond. When separated for interviews, both twins would become completely catatonic, their vital signs dropping to dangerously low levels. One psychiatrist noted that it was as if they shared a single soul, and separation threatened their very existence. The court's decision would change their lives forever. Instead of prison, they were sentenced to indefinite detention at Broadmoor Hospital, Britain's highest security psychiatric facility. At age 19, June and Jennifer found themselves living alongside some of Britain's most dangerous criminals, including serial killers and violent offenders. Broadmoor's imposing Victorian architecture and strict routines provided a stark contrast to their previous freedom. The twins were initially placed in separate wards, a decision that nearly proved fatal. Both stopped eating and sleeping, their health deteriorating rapidly, until officials were forced to house them together again. Even then, their behavior remained deeply troubling. Staff members reported witnessing bizarre rituals between the twins. They would sit facing each other for hours, completely motionless, their breathing synchronized. Sometimes one would eat while the other starved, alternating days as if they were taking turns existing. They developed an elaborate system of deciding who would wake up first each morning. The other twin would remain in bed, essentially comatose, until her sister gave permission to wake. Their time at Broadmoor revealed an even darker aspect of their relationship. In their private journals, which staff regularly confiscated and reviewed, both twins wrote extensively about their internal struggle. Jennifer described herself as the evil twin, writing, "I am the dark one, the murderer, the evil one. Without me, June can flourish, can be normal." June's entries were equally disturbing, describing how she felt simultaneously trapped by and dependent on her sister's presence. During their 11-year confinement, the twins received regular visits from journalist Marjorie Wallace, who would later become their biographer. Wallace gained unprecedented access to their inner world, spending hours with them and reviewing their writings. Through these interactions, a disturbing pattern emerged. The twins had developed a belief that one of them had to die for the other to live a normal life. They would take turns deciding which one would make the ultimate sacrifice, but could never follow through with their plans. The staff at Broadmoor observed another peculiar phenomenon. Despite their seemingly unbreakable bond, June and Jennifer would often engage in violent physical fights. These battles would erupt without warning. One minute they would be sitting quietly, the next they would be trying to strangle each other. After each fight, they would return to their usual synchronized behavior as if nothing had happened. One nurse described it as watching two sides of the same person at war with each other. Their writings during this period became increasingly focused on death and separation. Jennifer wrote extensively about sacrifice and redemption, while June's works centered on themes of survival and guilt. They began to believe that their bond was not just psychological but supernatural, that they were two halves of a single soul trapped in separate bodies. By 1993, after 11 years of treatment and observation, doctors finally decided the twins had made enough progress to be transferred to Castle Clinic, a lower sectionary facility closer to their home. The day of transfer, March 9, 1993, began normally. Both twins appeared calm as they boarded the transport van. Jennifer, however, seemed unusually quiet, even by their standards. During the journey, Jennifer suddenly leaned against June's shoulder and whispered, "I'm going to die today." Upon arrival at Caswell Clinic, Jennifer was unresponsive. She was immediately rushed to the hospital, where doctors discovered her heart was failing. Within hours, Jennifer Gibbons was pronounced dead. The cause was listed as acute myocarditis, an inflammation of the heart muscle, but no clear explanation for its sudden onset was ever found. The most astonishing transformation occurred in the aftermath of Jennifer's death. June, who had barely spoken to anyone outside her sister for 3 decades, began to talk. Her first words to Marjorie Wallace were, "I'm free at last, liberated, and at last Jennifer has given up her life for me." She spoke clearly, without any trace of her childhood speech impediment. The post-mortem examination of Jennifer's body revealed no evidence of foul play, no drugs, no obvious cause for the sudden heart inflammation that claimed her life. The mystery of her death deepened when investigators discovered that both twins had written about this exact scenario in their journals years earlier, one twin dying so the other could live a normal life. June Gibbons, now in her late 50s, lives quietly in West Wales. She has published several books and speaks openly about her past, though she rarely gives interviews. When asked about Jennifer's death, she maintains that her sister made the ultimate sacrifice out of love. "She died for me," June has said. "She couldn't live with the fact that we were going to be separated, and she knew I couldn't live a full life with her by my side." The case of the silent twins remains one of the most enigmatic in British criminal history, a story that challenges our understanding of identity, connection, and the boundaries between love and obsession. Their story raises disturbing questions about the nature of individuality and the price of freedom. Was Jennifer's death truly a sacrifice, a tragic coincidence, or something even more sinister? The answer, like so much about the silent twins, remains shrouded in silence. If this chilling true story of the silent twins kept you on the edge of your seat, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss another haunting tale from our channel. Drop a comment below sharing your thoughts. Do you think Jennifer's death was truly a sacrifice for her sister's freedom? Or was there something more sinister at play? If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of Britain's most mysterious cases, give this video a thumbs up and share it with someone who loves exploring the darker side of human psychology. Don't forget to check out our playlist of similar true crime stories that blur the lines between reality and the supernatural. Until next time, remember, sometimes the most chilling stories are the ones that really happened.